The story opens up in a cave with Kratos sharpening arrows for its now teenage son Atreus. Soon, they both leave the cave to go back home. They get on their wolf carriage and Kratos orders them to take them home. While on the way through the forest, they are attacked by Freya, who seeks revenge against them for killing her son Balder in the previous part of the game. Kratos and Atreus manage to escape her and reach home, where Atreus is met with his sick pet wolf Fenrir. Fenrir dies in the arm of Atreus, and this is when his father asks him to prepare for training. Frustrated, Atreus talks back to Kratos about just sticking to training instead of finding answers to his fate. He claims that his fate is not to stay hidden in the woods, and that he is a god who needs to do his role. Kratos shuts him off by telling him that he will not let him fight in stranger wars. Without arguing any further, Atreus decides to take his wolf for its burial. Kratos on the other hand enters the home to take a nap. Here we see Mimir's head placed on a table inside the home. In his sleep, Kratos meets his wife Faye, who warns him of running out of time. After waking up, Mimir informs him that Atreus has still not returned, and they both set out to look for Atreus. While looking for his son, Kratos is attacked by a bear. He manages to defeat it and is surprised to see the bear's body turn into Atreus. Atreus recalls being full of anger and getting in a fight with a bear on his way back before changing form. This reveals Atreus's new powers of taking forms of different animals. Kratos believes he needs discipline to control his newly discovered ability and orders him to train more. When they both reach back home, they are interrupted by Odin and Thor. Thor expresses his discontent by confronting Kratos for killing his sons, while Odin is concerned about Atreus searching for Tyr. As in the prophecies, Tyr is supposed to lead an army against Odin in the Battle of Ragnarok and defeat him. They propose peace to Kratos if Atreus stops searching for Tyr. Kratos refuses, resulting in him getting into an intense battle with Thor, which ends in a stalemate. After Kratos finally put back a fight, Thor tells Kratos that he looks forward to see him again and leaves. This is when Sindri and Brock the dwarf brothers arrive, and they inform Kratos that Atreus is alone at home with Odin. Hearing this, Kratos immediately heads back home. He is relieved to see his son safe and confronts Atreus back at home about trying to find Tyr without informing him. Atreus claims that Tyr is still alive and he is imprisoned somewhere in Dwarf's realm called Svartalfheim. He claims that he has found prophecies related to Tyr in different shrines throughout Midgard. Kratos, Mimir and Atreus then head to the shrine where the prophecy shows Tyr leading an army against Odin in the Battle of Ragnarok and killing him. Kratos, Mimir and Atreus decide to travel to Svartalfheim in search of Tyr. They meet up with the Sindri and Brock the dwarf brothers, and they help them open the gate to Svartalfheim. There they meet Durlin, a dwarf rebellion leader who was an ally of Atreus's mother in the past. They ask for his help in their search of Tyr, but instead they are met with a hostile behavior from him. Eventually they find Tyr in the mining caves of Svartalfheim and they rescue a deranged Tyr, bringing him back to the dwarf's refuge. Tyr seems to be scared of violence, and he refuses to be the one to lead an army in war. Claiming that he has changed his ways and he wants to live a peaceful life now. Once Kratos has left to sleep, Atreus sneaks out with Sindri to meet Freya and asks for her alliance against Odin. He informs her of Tyr and asks her to join them against Odin, but she refuses, causing Atreus to return empty-handed. The next day the group travels to Alfheim. They visit Groa's shrine there and learn about a new prophecy, which shows Tyr fights alongside a champion. Atreus gets excited that this champion must be him, but Kratos reminds him that this war is not theirs, and they should prefer to not get involved. The prophecy further shows that only Asgard is destroyed and the rest of the realms survive under a new champion who kills Odin. After this, the group returns back at the dwarf's place. At the dinner table, Atreus and Kratos gets into an argument about Atreus's fate. Where Atreus claims that his fate is to be the champion and save the 9 realms, but Kratos shuts him off once again. Furious by his father's remarks, Atreus leaves the table and goes to sleep. Atreus awakens in a dream where he meets a young girl giant goddess called Angerboda, who shows him a mural that tells the future of Kratos' death in Ragnarok and Atreus joining Odin. Atreus also learns that the giants transferred their souls into spiritual stones to avoid Odin. Atreus is entrusted with the remaining spirit stones, and he uses one to put a giant's soul into the body of a snake. After this he helps Angerboda stop her grandmother Grilla, who is a giant which steals animals' souls. After this he goes back to sleep with the intentions of waking up in his home. Weirdly, he wakes up in his Midgard home instead of the dwarf's refuge. Before he could make his way to the refuge, he is faced with monsters in the woods. He manages to evade them, and just before he could travel back to the refuge, Kratos finds him. Kratos angrily informs him he has been missing for 2 days, but they are again attacked by Freya. With Freya getting an upper hand in the fight over Kratos, Atreus turns into a bear and rushes towards Freya, but he is stopped by Kratos, who tells his son to calm down and reminding him that Freya has been their ally in the past. Freya relents after Kratos shields her from Atreus, and agrees to spare Kratos if he helps her break the curse binding her to Midgard, to which Kratos agrees. Taking the form of a falcon, Freya travels with Kratos and Mimir to Vanaheim, where her estranged brother Freyr leads a resistance against Odin. As they travel, Kratos opens up to Freya about the deaths of his first family in Greece and the emptiness of revenge. They learn that Odin has cursed Freya through binding the world tree roots together. As she makes an attempt to break them loose, they are faced with Nidhogg, a powerful giant monster that is entrusted with the duty of protecting the roots. After an intense battle and defeating Nidhogg, they manage to break the curse. Freya admits that she can neither forgive Kratos for killing her son nor kill him in return, and the two make amends. Back at the Huldra refuge, Kratos and Atreus have another argument regarding his recent deceitful behavior, ending in Atreus fleeing to Asgard to find a way to prevent his father's death. Atreus has a hostile encounter with Heimdall, but is saved by Thor and Odin. Odin treats him in a gentle and welcoming manner. He takes Atreus around Asgard and even gives him his own room to stay in Asgard as long as he wishes for. Later he meets with Thrud, Thor's daughter, and they both quickly bond well together. Atreus joins Odin in his office where he meets a spiritual sword. Odin is gracious enough to let Atreus keep the sword, and this is how a new weapon is stocked in his arsenal. Odin takes him to a cave where he shows Atreus an opening in the air. He claims that this path leads to the answers to all of their questions. As Atreus tries to peek in, Odin stops him, revealing that he did the same mistake and lost one of his eyes. He then shows Atreus a piece of a mask which emits the same energy as the opening. Odin requests his help in preventing Ragnarok by reassembling this ancient mask that holds the knowledge and truth of all the worlds. Meanwhile, in search of Atreus, Kratos, Freya, and Mimir head towards the Norns, the three deities which are aware of the future. They inform Kratos that Heimdall is destined to kill Atreus, and that Kratos' death is near as well. In response, Kratos and Brok forge the Draupnir ring into the powerful Draupnir spear, capable of bypassing Heimdall's foresight and harming him. While searching for mask pieces in Helheim with Thor's daughter Thrud, Atreus accidentally releases the giant wolf Garm, who begins tearing holes in the realms, allowing Hell Walkers to wreak havoc. Atreus reunites with Kratos as both attempt to stop Garm. During the fight, Atreus realizes he accidentally bound Fenrir's soul into his knife when the wolf died, and when he stabs that knife in Garm, he resurrects Fenrir by infusing his soul into Garm. Gaining a new giant wolf ally and now reconciled, Kratos and Atreus return to the dwarf's place, where Atreus shares his knowledge of Odin's mask with the rest of the group, but the discussion is disturbed when they learn that Freyr was captured by the Aesir. Kratos, Atreus, Mimir, and Freya return to Vanaheim to rescue Frey. There they find Heimdall, who has kidnapped Freyr and stolen the moon. Kratos battles Heimdall and actually manages to kill the powerful warrior. Unfortunately, that means that he is still fulfilling the prophecy outlined to him by the Norns. However, Kratos remains convinced that this is the right path. In fact, he is so convinced that he is doing the right thing that he decides to take Gjallarhorn from Heimdall with the intention of using the Great Horn to start Ragnarok. Atreus is unconvinced this is the end of their journey though, and asks for Kratos to allow him to return to Odin so that he may assemble and steal the mask, and use it for their own purposes, or at least prevent Odin from securing it. Kratos has his doubts, but he decided to trust Atreus' plan. Atreus returns back to Asgard. With the mask almost complete, he is ordered to go to Niflheim with Thor to retrieve its last missing part. Atreus and Thrud searches for Thor in Asgard so he can take him in search of the last piece of the mask. They find Thor drunk in a pub. Furious at Atreus for bringing his daughter in the pub, Thor throws a jug at Atreus which he evades and it lands on one of the Asgard drunk soldiers in the pub. This leads to a brawl inside the pub. After some mini-combat, Thor passes out due to overdrinking. Thrud and Atreus takes him out of the pub and finally manage to persuade him to go with Atreus to receive the last piece of mask. Thor and Atreus manage to successfully retrieve the final missing piece and complete the ancient mask in its original form. Odin arrives at the scene and thanks Atreus for his service. This is when Thor's wife Sif appears with the Valkyries and informs Odin that Kratos has killed Heimdall. She demands to take Atreus, but Odin stops her. Thor on the other hand loses his cool and tries to kill Atreus. Somehow he manages to escape using an exit door planned by Sindri. Back at the dwarf's place, Atreus gives the mask to Tyr, who unexpectedly agrees to fight and reveals he knows of a secret way to Asgard. Brok, suspicious of Tyr's abrupt change of heart, suddenly realizes Tyr is calling Atreus Loki, making Tyr to fatally stab Brok, revealing he had been Odin in disguise the whole time. The group drive Odin away and retrieve the mask, but a grief-stricken Sindri blames Atreus for Brok's death and abandons the group to mourn. Kratos decides to step out of the war and leaves the refuge with Atreus, stating that this war is not theirs. Later while hunting, Kratos realizes that he is running away from his battles, and Atreus and Kratos decides to fight against Odin in Ragnarok, along with Freya and the rest of the group. Freya believes that they need the help of Surtur to break through Asgard's defenses, and gives the duty of allying Surtur to Kratos and Atreus. They enter Muspelheim to help Surtur achieve a destined primordial form that will destroy Asgard. Surtur believes that Kratos' blades consist primordial fire and asks Kratos to pierce his heart with Thor's blades. Kratos combines his blades with Surtur's heart in order to turn him into Ragnarok. This is when Odin's Valkyries attack Atreus and Kratos. After defeating them, Ragnarok speaks to them and tells them that he awaits their call to destroy Asgard. All that Kratos has to do is to sound the Gjallarhorn to call him for his help. Under Kratos' leadership, the united forces of the other realms gather at Tyr's temple in Midgard. Kratos sounds the Gjallarhorn, opening all realms travel to begin the siege of Asgard. Initially, the battle does not go well. The other realms are quickly cut off, and the elves and Vanir struggle with Asgard's defenses. Sindri comes alone so that no more dwarves will die, and the army is forced to rescue innocent Midgardian refugees from the uncontrollable Surtur. However, the tide turns when Angrboda arrives with Fenrir and the snake Atreus previously saved, now fully grown into Jormungandr, the world serpent who occupies Thor, while Sindri destroys Asgard's war machines and protective wall. Thrud and her mother Sif then rebel against Odin, after discovering that Odin used refugees as living shields. Thor knocks the world serpent back in time and engages Kratos in battle once again. After an intense one-on-one battle, Kratos manages to convince Thor to stop fighting for the sake of their children, and Thor agrees. This is when Odin arrives. He orders Thor to kill Kratos, but Thor disobeys him, claiming that Sif was right about him and that he will no longer listen to his evil orders. Surprising everyone, Odin ruthlessly kills his own son with his spear. Odin then engages Kratos and Atreus. Odin gets the better of them and manages to pin them down to the ground. This is when Freya arrives, with a binding spell that holds Odin's breath. Somehow Odin manages to break the spell and destroy the ground, causing them all to fall underground where the gate to knowledge exists. Odin asks Atreus to put on the mask and look into the answers of creation, but Atreus chooses to not serve him and breaks the ancient mask, initiating yet another battle against Odin with Freya and Kratos, and the group overpower and defeat him. Atreus traps Odin's soul in a spiritual stone, but a vengeful Sindri smashes it and finally kills Odin. Freyr arrives and informs the group that they must escape before Surtur destroys the entire Asgard. This is when Angrboda comes in through a portal, creating an escape route for everyone, but Freyr stays back to distract Surtur while others escape, and sacrifices his life to save everyone. After the war, Atreus wakes up in Midgard and goes out to search for his father. On his way he comes across Sif and Thrud. He informs them about Odin killing Thor, and offers his condolences. After this he walks into Freya, who is thankful for his safety and tells Atreus that he is a warrior, which his mother wanted him to be. She then hands him over an enchanted stone, and Atreus reunites with Angrboda in Midgard, who shows him and Kratos a mural which shows that his mother purposefully destroyed Atreus' shrine so that they could determine their own fate. Kratos expresses himself to be porud of his son, and Atreus decides to find the rest of the giants. He bids a heartfelt farewell to his father before embarking on his own journey. Looking further into the shrine, Kratos discovers a mural depicting him as a beloved peaceful god supported by all. The shrine Kratos finds depicts the major events of his life up until that point. The final scene in the shrine shows a golden version of Kratos standing on a platform in front of what appears to be worshippers. The drawing is odd for several reasons. While Kratos is shown wearing his Greek garb, he's still holding the Leviathan axe. That would seem to suggest that the drawing depicts a version of the character we haven't quite seen yet. Though Kratos is still a god of renown, a title he has always struggled with, the mural implies that he will eventually be seen as the kind of god worthy of admiration and love that Odin and others believed he will never be. Finally hopeful about his future, Kratos unites with Freya and Mimir to help rebuild and restore peace among the realms. Mimir asks Kratos what he saw, and Kratos says a path that he never imagined. In the game's secret ending, Kratos, Freya, Mimir and an unforgiving Sindri attend a funeral for Brock in Svartalfheim. The story ends with Brock's funeral. In the future installments in the series we may see a newer version of Kratos, one which is less violent and a more welcoming leader of people. On the other hand, Atreus seems to be quite motivated to chase his dreams. He wants to find the answers to his questions and the purpose of his existence, which he believes only his mother truly knows. We can only imagine what more powerful abilities will he discover within himself on his journey. Freya seems to have developed a family-like bond with Kratos and is likely to stay with him as his companion for future adventures. At last, Mimir played a key role in this part of the game just as the last one, and he stays with Kratos to guide him further with his knowledge and wisdom. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe for more epic videos. We will see you at the next one.